Barber,
Here.
David Forrest, Howard Hayes, Stephen Harris,
Here.
Linda Johnstone,
Here.
Josh Lewis, Stephanie McDowell, Brandon Morris,
Here.
Sue Orton,
Here.
Cheryl Rose, here. I also see Howard Hayes. Are you on now?
Yes, I am. I apologize.
Thank you. And Amy Ellis is also in attendance. And we have our guests here. Do you guys want to state your names?
Sure, I'm Rick Stream. I'm the Republican Director of Elections in St. Louis County. Now, Luke works with my son, Schnooks.
I'm Eric Fan, I'm the Democratic Director of Elections at the election board.
Right. Have a quorum.
So take a look at the minutes. Any changes on the minutes? Please let me know. I move we accept the minutes. Good with me. Anyone second that?
I'll second Howard Hayes.
Howard. Okay, so the November meetings have to be about move. All in favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes, I favor.
Thank you. This afternoon, we have asked the Board of Election, St. Louis County Board of Election to come this afternoon to give us some updates and it's in March that we vote.
April 2nd.
So we always concerned to make sure that people with disability have access to the voting and give clear instructions. And I want to say, did receive the promotions in the mail. That's great. That's really, that's good. I applaud you for doing that. So Ed, Rick, you want to take over?
Sure, we're happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I guess we can run through just in kind of broad strokes, the various options available to voters with disabilities, and we're happy to take any questions or input any members of the commission might have for us. So to start off, first, there are various absentee voting options available. There's the permanently disabled absentee voter list, which a voter with a permanent disability can sign up for, which means they automatically receive an absentee ballot for their election, or absentee ballot application for election, not a ballot. And then also there is curbside voting available for voters with disabilities prior to the election and on election day. And at the polling places or for in-person voters at the absentee voting process, there are voting machines with accessible capabilities for voters to utilize if they so choose. And of course, voters, any voter can bring somebody with them as an assistant. So that is an option available to any voter who wants it, whether they're voting in person or by absentee ballot. So those are the really general things. I think most of you are familiar with those. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Rick.
No, you covered it pretty well. I would just add that when our polling place department polling places, of course, one of the criteria is it has to be handicapped accessible. I think for the most part, we've eliminated all the facilities that have easily accessibility for handicapped folks. So in any building we use at this point, actually, when I got 7 years ago, they were gradually trying to eliminate them. And, some of the places in St. Louis County don't have buildings that are very good in that respect, but we've looked for other places that would also satisfy the other two criteria, that is a large parking lot close by and a big room. So made a really concerted effort to try to find places that people just easily walk into. It's, trust me, as somebody who ran in elections for 25 years, I didn't realize how complicated and complex it was to actually run the elections. Every election is a new election, with some buildings being canceled for construction and other reasons. So we're always looking every election to establish a group of polling places, usually over 200, 250 by presidential race, that will satisfy all of these criteria, all three of them mainly. So we have to take any questions.
I think the fact that you can vote at any location in St. Louis County really helps. Some places not, because different people with different disabilities have different needs. So it's pretty easy to find one that does work for them. I do have a question. I guess November would probably be the biggest voting thing. There could be long lines. If somebody can't stand in line, is there a way that they can get inside just to sit until their turn comes? Or how do you handle that without making the other people mad?
It's a delicate situation, yeah.
We can't control how they get mad.
Yeah.
We can, I think, as Eric alluded to, earlier, the curbside voting is an option. Of course, physical and curbside, we call it accessible voting now because it's really supposed to be for those people physically unable to get into the polling place. And that is a perfect example. If they just pull up alongside the curb, somebody will go in and represent the polling place. We have a person outside who needs to vote curbside. So they'll come out, point to long lines. I don't know, we have on the website an app to find out how long the lines are. But I think maybe for handicapped folks, that might be a little more difficult to do, I'm not sure. But you can look around and see where the shorter lines are. But in any case, if they are physically unable to stand, that is a perfect definition of somebody that is qualified to have the accessible voting curbside.
I just ask because my husband can stand, but he can't stand in line for a long time. So just wondering what his options are.
Yeah, I mean, for voters in that situation, if they like, they would also qualify for a mail absentee ballot if they want that option. But that's at the voters' choosing.
And speaking of curbside voting, a lot of people don't know about that. So last time we came here, Eric talked about signage. Is there gonna be any kind of signage, say, if you need curbside voting? Is there gonna be anyone kind of scanning the crowd outside to see if somebody needs curbside?
I think our goal is during the absentee voting period to have some signage. We have already signage like that at our office at Northwest Plaza. But during the absentee voting period at the satellite locations, it's our goal to have that kind of signage. Our concern for election day is that we simply don't have enough election judges to be scanning parking lot at each location or to be answering a phone or bell or something like that. So it is, as Rick stated earlier, it relies more on somebody telling the election judges that a voter needs it on election day. But that's why we would encourage people who require it to go prior to election day, especially to our office where it will work the best and be most efficient.
Because I was a couple times, I was organized campaign poster for some. And this
Eric,
came and said they wanted curbside voting. I looked around and thought, well, I guess it's me that has to go and tell them inside. And, I have concern about that. This was an older couple who was not particularly savvy about things. And they definitely wouldn't, they didn't know anything about the absentee. I said, you know, about the absentee voting. So you mentioned that you were going to get high school students to help that. Is that something that high school students can take as part of their time to maybe every hour just to check?
Yeah, we do have a high school poll worker program, and especially for November elections, it's our goal to have at least one at every polling place on election day. One of the students' main duties is to count the number of people in line every 15 to 30 minutes to inform our website so people can see how many people are in line. And that is something they can look for while they're counting people in line. So it will be spotty, but it is something that they could do.
But they look at some,
yeah. Would it be possible if you had a list of the workers at, or the head kind of worker, like the main, like the point person at each location? Would it be possible for them to have a hotline that calls into the main HQ office? And then you guys have a way to relay those calls to the location, so that someone that's at a location could call. It directs to the county election board office and say, hey, and they can say, hey, I'm at such and such location. I'm at DePere City Hall or NKMS or the lodge, if we're talking about DePere kind of places, and say, hey, I need curbside. And then you're able to call the head person at NKMS or the lodge or City Hall and say, hey, there's a person at curbs that needs curbside there, to kind of be able to relay it so that it's just the one person at each location that would get a call from someone in the election board office to
Right.
create that notification process.
suggestion as well, if you had one number that anybody could call, be it, you know, then they could relay to the,
Yeah, we're in direct communication with locations or supervisors by phone and ironically. So if somebody calls the main office, says, I have a person who needs to have accessible voting, curbside voting at such and such location, we can get the word out to them almost instantly.
So basically, call the county board of election. Is that advertised anywhere?
could there be signs at each place that say if you need curbside voting, call? Or, I don't know, that too burdensome or?
Make signs all the time. So, that's certainly something we can do or would certainly look into. Usually, let me ask you all this question. When my mother was elderly and she never wanted to vote absentee, come to the polling place, you know. So one of my brothers, the driver there, she couldn't get out of the car and walk, back surgeries. So he would go in and somebody know that that my mother was out. You mentioned, or somebody mentioned an elderly couple. So maybe that's a situation, phone call would be helpful. Usually, somebody who needs help is being driven by somebody who doesn't need help. So I'm just asking, is that, how big of a problem is it?
On the combine, there, this was South County, that I was there, actually I was at the South County Government Center. I got to, I mean, there were been 4 voters to request. So I would think it happened at least once. Some people, like she mentioned, may not be able to stand and they haven't done that. I next to a neighbor, what she does, goes to the polling site, checks it out to see if there's a line. And if there's a line, she leaves. But if there's no line, she parks her car and goes in. You know? So you're missing, if there was some black and white, just a black and white sign, or County Board of Election, if you need curbside voting, the number, and if it's the main office, you can communicate. Don't, at that particular time, I didn't find people that helpful. They're like, oh, get in, get out. They wasn't really concerned about that. And been there, I'm hard of hearing. I'm always staying in the audience. That gives me clues, you know. So I was scanning, and I could tell by the expression, 2 couples, they're like, we're here for voting, but don't know how to do it, because we can't stand. So, you know, I took care of it. Well, if you had, I would think, signage and the high school poll worker, every now and then to just check it out. And most,
I would also add to that not every person that is physically disabled to that point has necessarily a caregiver with them 24/7. I've seen that more recently that quite a few people who are disabled are actually still quite a bit physically disabled, are still kind of driving themselves to things and still doing a lot of stuff independently. So I kind of worry that without a sign or some way for them to communicate, that we'd have a situation where someone who maybe doesn't have a caregiver or a loved one or a friend or relative with them at the time would not be able to do so without a hotline.
I'm glad you brought that up, Luke, because one, I don't see her on the list here, but one of our commission members, Stephanie Manzano, she is blind.
She's on
Oh,
the meeting.
she is. Okay. Well, Stephanie can speak for herself, but I've heard Stephanie shared that she's in a new situation now that you can vote at any location. She may choose a new location, being that it's new. No one's out there to greet it. Yes, she has a cane, used to have a dog. If you're there, Stephanie, speak up.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the opportunity. Yeah, it isn't necessarily, if I'm in a new location, it is hard to know where to go, how to get into the building, what part of the building the voting is taking place without having somebody with me. And then, so that's challenging. And yes, I would choose to go to a voting place, a different voting place, if I was familiar with that place over another place. That would be helpful. Um, it, it wouldn't necessarily, help with the actual voting process. Where, the voting machines are great, but we don't have them for every election. At least in St. Louis, we don't have them for every election. And the places that we do have them, people aren't familiar how to get them set up. I had a situation where I went in to vote, let them know I needed the accessible machine, and it took them quite a long time to find somebody who could get that set up for me. And then using that machine, it does take a little longer, just because you go back and you listen to it, make sure that you have to listen to that whole thing over. Once you voted, you listen to it over to make sure that you selected what you want to select. And it does take a little longer. And I think the poll workers were getting a little impatient. So that was not, that didn't make me feel good about voting, if that makes sense. And then I have had where I've had family help me, or election judges help me, somebody from each party come in with me. And none of that is private, that somebody knows who I'm voting for. So it does make it hard, even when I can physically get there. And once I get there and I finally am able to locate where I need to be, it's hard to find it's hard to find who I can get help from, and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And everybody, disability is so different, so varied, what people need. Just having your judges be aware that good comment if you see someone like they struggle, say, how can I help? And let them tell you. It could be anything. She pretty well covered it all. Be some guidance of where to vote, get in the building. Some people need actual help with the ballot. But hopefully you can do it privately. I know about the Republican and Democrat judges have to be there off somewhere. So it varies from person to person, and some of the disabilities are not visible. They may require help. So yes, Cheryl.
Can you just go over what you cover in terms of disability? Do your training your judges? Have a protocol for that?
We cover generally in our training classes. And we have a section. It deals mostly with how to set up and operate the accessible voting device in each polling place. But there is some general coverage of how to interact with voters with disabilities. But I don't want anybody to get a sense that the election judges have extensive training in this regard. And that's one thing, going back to the curbside voting, that I think I mentioned last time I was here, to try to manage expectations there, because especially on election day, we just don't have the luxury of having extra workers at polling places. Or I should, not extra, because curbside voting is required by law. So we provided, I think what I mean by managing expectations is that it's a long wait
Yeah.
to vote curbside. And if more than one or two voters are at a polling place at a time requiring curbside voting, it's going to be a very long wait. Because the election judges are instructed to notice the place in line that voter would otherwise be, and then serve that voter when their place in line can come up. So that's why we encourage folks that prefer to vote by that method to visit our office or a satellite location prior to election day when there are more personnel available. So I just would add that. And Stephanie's experience with the accessible voting device is unfortunately all too common. That the poll workers, the election judges do receive training on it. But because not that many people use it on election day, and it does take somebody away from doing something else, they will try to sometimes encourage people to wait for it or try something else. So it is a struggle for us on election day to remind the election judges that they have to accommodate voters that choose to use that device. So it's something we're aware of, Stephanie, and it's something we continue to work on for sure.
Thank you.
Would you be open to having, us look at the instruction manual? See if we have any suggestions?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's been something. I don't know what the Disabilities Commission, it's probably been quite a number of years since that's happened with the Disabilities Commission. I know Paraquat has also looked at it in the past, but we would be more than happy to share with the commission and for you all to provide suggestions.
Has the Paraquat been recent?
Probably more recent than the commission, but it's been a number of years.
I don't think they've looked at it since I've been.
Because maybe in conjunction with Paraquat, we could take a look at it.
And Stephanie works for Paraquat, so, Stephanie, can you inquire to last Stephanie?
Have you spoken with JMO yet?
Not recently, I actually served with her in the legislature.
There,
I know that nobody has really come in to look at training or the equipment as a group since we got our new equipment, which was just
Mhm.
4 years ago.
We did have a group from the special school district just 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That students with disabilities that were going to be first-time voters, and we took them through the process of using the accessible voting devices, showed them around the election board. So it was a great event, but it was not a comprehensive review of the training materials.
I think that if our commission is willing for us to take a look at it in conjunction with Paraquat. Stephanie works there and she could get together some other people. Paraquat.
oh, absolutely. Sorry, this is Stephanie. Absolutely, I can do that.
How should we arrange this?
You have our contact information, right? So
Okay.
So, method to do it. Start training today.
Okay.
The boards for the April election systems. But in the meantime, there are training materials available.
Yeah. I guess mostly just to make sure it's done before November. That's when the biggest election is.
And forgive me, I cannot remember the name of the organization we work with, but they were out of Columbia, Missouri. 2 years ago, they developed training videos for each brand of voting equipment utilized across the state as it relates to the accessible voting device. And so we did participate in that, and we do have a video specific to our brand of voting equipment, the accessible voting device that we do show to our election workers while they undergo training.
And the Governance Council on Disability, which I work for, they had a video, several videos, talking about how you vote and on the machine. So you might want to check with the Governance Council on Disability to see if they still have videos. And if they do, it'll be on their website, disability.mo.gov. So I was involved in that when we first started. They updated it. Luke has a question. Luke?
I was gonna say too that we might want to double check too that those videos on the Governor's Council and some other videos are updated to the current machines. I do know that St. Louis County in the past had different machines up until I want to say like 2018, 2020-ish, if I'm not mistaken. That were kind of more similar to the ones used in the city that didn't have as much of the accessible features and accessible methods that we do now. And so one of the things too should be to also double check that it's been updated to kind of explain the current features or current options that the technology now has, or the ways the technology has advanced over the years.
Our new equipment came in November 2019. Accessible voting is there described in the videos a couple of years ago. I had an organization out of Columbia, Missouri, so they clearly explained how our machine works, but I don't know how far wide that spread. Certainly.
Okay.
I have to do, but it's not related. I know you don't have anything to do with this, with the caucus issue. But how do people with disabilities, how are they going to be able to participate in the Republican caucus?
Republican caucus, March the 2nd, 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. in the morning. Either in the county now, I'm just talking about the county, by congressional district. If they live in the first congressional district, or Bush's district, they go to UMSL, to the Millennium Center, and they check in. If they're in the second congressional district, in Wagner's district, they go to Parkway West. But they have to be there no later than 10 a.m. on March 2nd. That's a Saturday.
Well, what if they can't? What if their house? What about Linda who can't get there?
Well, that's the problem with caucuses. You have to be there, at least for the Republicans this time.
I know,
about the Democrats.
but I mean, and I know that that's something the county board has any jurisdiction over. But I just wondered how, if there is, what would be the process to complain about that or get that changed or something?
Linda,
Yeah,
I'm a Democrat myself, so it doesn't affect me, but I do think that, everybody should be able, no matter what party.
Disagree with you, but that's, at least in the Republicans, the Democrats are slightly.
Yeah, I know.
Any of our over 60 people, they cannot.
I agree that. What's advice? I just heard that.
let me one of the things that I know when it comes to these caucus stuff is it gets weird because there's the Federal Voting Rights Act that applies to publicly funded elections. However, because the caucus is privately run election, it's the Federal Voting Rights Act, I've heard rumors that it might not apply. And instead of the Voting Rights Act applying, I've heard that the ADA has to apply. So therefore, the way that we have to go about this is you would have to sue the parties directly under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, for failing to provide a reasonable accommodation that prohibited you from participating in the vote.
But Luke, it's not a private, it's not a public
So
place
you
of
have to
public
request
accommodation.
it through the party. You request it through the party.
I know,
It's
but the
Title
party is
V
public.
ADA violation. It's a Title V ADA violation.
Only one voice at a time, please, because our part person only can type one voice at a time. So raise your hand. I keep looking for your information. But basically, what Sarah is saying is that it's not a public accommodation. So we have Brandon. Brandon, were you trying to say something?
No, I wasn't trying to say anything.
Title V is the miscellaneous catch-all section of the ADA.
Okay, I got that. Okay, I think we've covered quite a bit, but we want to look over the training material and look at signage for curbside voting, even if it's the main office member. Is the South County Government Center going to be a voting spot?
On election day, but it will not be a satellite location.
Won't be a satellite location.
And we're essentially partnering with the public library for most of the satellite locations. So in South County,
Grandview Library,
Grandview and
there's one on Web Road, yeah, remember?
yeah, I think that the two in South County will be Grantsview and Cliff Cave.
That's further south.
It'll be for August and November, for just all, for April, to be the,
I think Grantsview.
Okay, well, thank you for your time coming here today. You're welcome to our meeting, or you may go back to work.
well, we do have an election coming up.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Was a good meeting here, and I want to applaud you for that publicity information we got through the mail. That's good.
Thank you. That's place.
It's magnet, you put it on your refrigerator.
Yeah.
It's on mine.
Do you ever talk to your city counterparts?
Yes.
Yeah.
So are they going to do anything similar? You know, promote?
I don't think they're doing it this time around.
Yeah,
I think it's expensive. I have to, it's expensive.
I'm sure it was expensive.
With a million residents, 725,000 registered voters. It costs a lot of money, but we think it's worth it because it informs the public about the various options for not only voting, but how we actually run the office, security and bipartisanship, things like that. A lot of people don't. But a lot of counties, cities don't have the money to do something. But they do send out notice of election cards, like we 2 to 3 weeks prior to the election, let everybody know there is an election coming up. What's on the ballot? So
Haven't they adopted city that you can vote at any city polling? That's a big plus. Because I just think about people who go to work and get off, like where's the nearest polling site? Instead of going home fighting traffic, so they can go to the nearest polling, or lunch hour.
people vote where they work. teachers, people with Clayton's a big place. And when we send out the notice of election cards, we always include the 5 closest polling places to the person's home, so they can have options.
I didn't know the city did that.
It just started.
I heard that. Okay, but thank you for coming. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Moving on to chairperson's report. We have sort of put this all under annual report, that we, give to county executive page. I hope that you had the opportunity to take a look at it. And I wanna, before I ask if you have any comments or any changes, we want to deal with the county council public comment. Luke had brought up several meetings ago by having a virtual public comment. So I'm gonna hand it over to Dana if you heard anything.
Great, yeah, I spoke with the clerk, which is Diane Valenti, and she met with the council chair, Councilwoman Webb, and asked about what kind of options could be available. I included for all of you rule number 5, county council, which talks about public forum and how people sign up for that and kind of the rules surrounding it. The rule, as I understand it, involves that if you want to make a comment at an in-person meeting, that you have to be in person at that meeting to make a comment. So I think the question that I was hearing from you guys was whether there could be exceptions to that. What she let me know is that for them to have a compromise between what they can do administratively and maybe what the public would want. So if they were going to have a virtual comment in person meetings, they would have to have additional IT staff available and at ready. Keeping that open, and they did not feel that they had the capacity to do that at this time.
So, state level, I can't really get a person testimony. Just send it to the legislators. Is that something that if you want to comment on certain pieces of county legislation that you can write? The county chair and your own county person?
If somebody has that need for an accommodation because of their disability, they can have someone else make the comment on their behalf at the in-person meeting, or they can contact the clerk, Ms. Valenti, and let them know about their specific situation, and she'll work with them on a case-by-case basis. And that could include maybe their comments and making sure that the county council is able to review those. But just like anything under the ADA as an accommodation, it really is on a case-by-case basis. It's not blanket policy.
I wonder if it would be possible for someone to submit to missile.
Teacher, please put your eye on, because I hear somebody moving around and waving. It's hard for me to hear, so please put yourself on mute. Thank you.
If it wouldn't be an idea, a suggestion.
Excuse me, this is Sue Orton. Somebody has their mic open and we can't hear. Thank you.
It's to allow people to present in writing to Ms. Valenti their testimony and then have it read into the record like when everybody else testifies, so that it's, council hears it just as if somebody were there.
But what I was hearing was that the councilwoman did not feel that that would be feasible. They would have to vet all of those comments beforehand, and they would have to make a determination, if we're only doing this for people with disabilities, how are we determining whether the person is asking it for a legitimate reason, or whether, unfortunately, I think part of the reason why they like the in-person meetings and in-person comments is because it keeps people honest. You know who is speaking, and they're doing it publicly. Sometimes people behave differently online, or they can be a little bit more anonymous. And they've had some instances where there was disruptive behavior and they had to shut the meeting down and weren't able to proceed with their business. That's why I say it's, I think, a little bit of a sticky situation where there has to be sort of a compromise between them keeping order and having a lot of rules and making sure that, people do have an opportunity to give their feedback. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
I think it's a game of telephone. They told me, and I'm telling you.
no, that makes sense.
But going back to my question, if I know this is coming up on Tuesday night, can I write something and send it to Chair or to Diane? Read?
I don't know that it would be read. It's possible that it could be shared.
Privately, like silently, whatever.
The good thing is, you all did make suggestions and feedback to the council about the accessibility of the chambers, and they made big changes and remodeled the chambers, so the accessibility of the location has never been better. I don't know if any of you had a chance to go in person and look at it.
Carol took us there. Carol took us there, showed us the change.
Linda, you always have the option of emailing your council person.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to accommodate.
but how you get it to the whole council? Like when you
Right.
buy
I
a
mean,
person,
you
that
could
is different.
type it, say, who is my Chakis? Chakis is my council person. So I email it to him, but I can CC to all the others. You always should do the chair, you all, then the other people. So, okay. Thank you. So now let's go back to the annual report. Is there any comments, any changes that we need to make? And if there isn't, we need to vote on it. Any changes?
I move that we
Make a motion to accept the annual report.
accept the annual report as written.
Okay, second it?
Sue Orton seconds.
Who seconds? Oh, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And any abstain? Nays? Okay. Thank you. So the next step in this is that contact Diane about when we can present this to the disabled committee, our annual report, and send it to County Executive, Dr. Page. The date will probably need to be changed to that February. I don't know, it may still be February. And I would say for me, as far as dates, it's maybe after the 18th of March. As far as me. when I get back from Africa, my daughter's coming into town. My granddaughter is competing in volleyball here. Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else to report. We go on to the ADA coordinators report.
Okay, thank you. This is Dana. Just to report out, I wanted to just speak briefly about my role and my job and just kind of the typical things, because I think the last report, I didn't have much time to report out. So thinking about my day to day, I know I report a few things here and there to you all, but I want you to hopefully understand that a lot of my day to day involves making sure that our county employees who might need a reasonable accommodation so they can be successful in their job are getting what they need, and that the county is able to, have them be efficient and successful in their positions. The other thing that comes up a lot is having regular contact with our departments to provide helpful information to them about our obligations under the ADA, about people with disabilities and things that, might be concerns, making sure that people can participate in all of the things that the county is doing. So a couple of examples. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at a staff meeting with Parks and Recreation and be able to present a little bit about the ADA to them to help keep it kind of at the top of mind. Later on this week, there's the safety meeting. The county has safety liaisons for every department. When we get together and talk about things that affect safety, I want to make sure that the perspective of people with disabilities is included in that. I recently provided some advice to facilities. They just got a grant to be able to put in some electric vehicle charging ports for our fleet vehicles. Since they'll be putting in something new, I want to make sure that when we're in the design phase that we're thinking about accessibility as those get installed, even though they're for employee use. So I just want to give you just a little bit of an idea. Another regular part of my job is keeping current on my professional development. I do have the certification as an ADA coordinator, and I make sure that I'm attending training on a regular basis, far in excess of what is required for that. Most recently, there was a webinar on artificial intelligence and the ADA, understanding employment discrimination related to artificial intelligence and the hiring process. It was presented by the ADA National Network and by an employee of the EEOC. And so I was able to attend that and then bring that information back to our onboarding and hiring team and help them understand things to keep in mind and our obligations. So that's what I wanted to use my report for today, was just to give you guys a little bit of an overview of some of the things that I don't necessarily report out every detail of everything that I'm doing, but just generally what kind of activities I spend my time.
I certainly am interested in hearing about artificial intelligence and performance. Is there something that you can share with us, like a scenario? This one. What
the EEOC is looking at with that is making sure that under no circumstance we would be filtering out somebody from being eligible on a criteria that could be related to their disability. So if I have an algorithm that looks at your employment history on your application and sees that you have a period of time that you weren't employed, if it filters that person out and says, oh, well, they're not eligible because they had a period of unemployment, so we're gonna filter them out, that could be discriminatory. Someone could have a period of unemployment because of their disability, but that doesn't mean that they're not qualified today to be employed and to take on whatever that role is. That would be an example of something that people might not initially realize or think about, but it could be disability related.
That's interesting.
That's good. I'm glad that you've done that and relaying that to the county because I think AI is already screening out lots of people that shouldn't be screened out, so.
If it would screen out, one person who's qualified, then that's one person too many. We need good talent and to hire great people, and we want to make sure that we're, doing everything the right way.
Glad to hear that. Thank you for being certified.
My
Are
pleasure.
you, planning to, go to the convention next springtime?
I'm not registered at this point. I'll be looking at that and see if it makes sense I think they generally have a virtual option and an in-person option. So I'll see what makes the most sense for our county taxpayer dollars. If I should maybe do the virtual option or if I do every other year.
Used to be a lot of good information for the virtual. I used to go.
Absolutely. I did go to the National Symposium in Kansas City in June of 20.
I met some really interesting people.
I think, did I have it on my work too? I was going to speak about the Metropolitan Taxing Commission. So you all requested the Board of Elections to speak, obviously got that arranged. I invited the Metropolitan Tax Account Commission to speak at a future meeting. They let me know that their director is on a leave of absence. It looks like they have a lot of recent meetings that have been canceled. So I do think they may not be entirely active right now. My plan is just to check back in March and see if there's been any change in the status of that.
Yeah, it looks like they have a history on the website once or twice a year meeting. So, and she said she would check in March. And I asked the question, if you serve on one commission, can you serve on another? Because at this point, I don't know of anyone outside of this commission that is able to serve. And they can be city or county residents. So other commission members, if you know anyone, city or county,
But they have to be, there has to be openings because one time we had somebody we were going to recommend, but they only had an opening for a county, city or something like that. I don't know. There was some issue about it.
well, we have a lot of questions to the commission, so hopefully in March and you can ask if you get a hold of some. It have to be city, you can have one of the qualifications.
I'll ask. I think that concludes my.
I'm sorry.
I think that concludes my.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Moving on to Older Adult Commission update, Sue Orton.
Hi there. I attended the meeting virtually and one of the things they discussed at length was the circuit breaker increase versus the tax freeze. And the people who are on this commission are really in tune with the aging ahead, what do you call it? The plan that's coming up. They also talked about the home improvement program that we are and that we already have discussed with our group. And Liz de la Perouse is involved with the St. Louis Elder Financial Protection Coalition and the Broadband Initiative. So she's on top of that. But the Master Plan on Aging was one of the things that they talked a lot about. And I think we all have seen copies of when the public hearing is in March. And there's also going to be virtual hearings on the 21st of March. And I have a link that I can send to people if you don't have it, if you want to do things virtual.
Something you said.
Any questions?
Send me the links to Cheryl.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
So there's something about, circuit breaker versus the tax.
Okay, I will send the email that I got, and it was from the Governor's Council, and it actually has a really good explanation and a link to sign up and register for the virtual.
Oh, being specifically on this, circuit breaker and the tax freeze.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
No, this is not on circuit breaker, Linda. This is regarding the Missouri plan for the master plan on aging, and it's a public forum. It is put on by the Division of Aging. It'll be at the Maryland Heights Convention Center on March 5th from 9 to 11, and the public is welcome.
Okay, did they say anything about what's the difference between the circuit breaker and the tax freeze?
No. The only thing I know is that the proposal for the circuit breaker is to increase the amount. And I think I read that it was normally 30,000. They want it to be increased to 40,000. And then as far as qualification, but I think that was in the legislative update from the council.
Okay, any paper or link information you can send us by email will be appreciative.
Yeah, I will send it off later today. I'll send it to Dana and to you, and you guys can distribute it.
Thank you.
I plan on attending that meeting.
Thank you. Universal Design Task Force update, we have a meeting next Thursday, with Councilperson Lisa Clancy and the HPA and Dan Weisenthal from the Aging Commission will be there along with Sue or Shara and myself. Shara recently, a while back, I sent Shara an article that I saw in the Better Homes and Garden Universal Design, and Shara contacted the builder. And she pretty much summarized what the builder told her and sent it to Lisa and Dan Rosenthal. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, since not everybody got that memo, yeah, I'll tell you, this is a builder, this is a guy who works for a builder in Virginia, and they do universal design automatically on all their houses, unless, there's some reason that they can't. People can opt out of it, but he said almost nobody does because they talk of the residents of universal design, their staff, their sales staff have been all trained in universal design by the Home Builders Associations. He has training in that. They do stepless entries mostly through the garage, but they also try to include another second entry when that's possible. Wider doorways, wider hallways, bathrooms, and locking in the bathrooms, and lever handles. And, you know, they really are committed to guiding universal design and telling people, you know, how useful it is. He said that because they do this, they're getting a lot of referrals from people who want that. So it's helping their business, basically. And they're running into a lot of people um, who want, you know, are talking about the fact that they want space for their parents to be able to come live with them if, as they get older, they don't want to be in nursing homes, particularly after what happened with COVID. And of course, they're close to Washington, D.C., so they do get a number of disabled veterans as clients. But I just thought this was so encouraging because this is a company that's done this, not because of an ordinance. They've just done it and they do it on every house. So that was good news. I sent it to Lisa. I happened to see Lisa at something yesterday. She hasn't read it yet, but I talked to her about it. And we'll see. She is going to meet with Craig this week and they're going to discuss how they're going to conduct the meeting on the 20th.
Thank you. And I feel like you've done an awful lot of research thanks to Cheryl, the task force. Really up to Lisa Clancy and her colleagues to see this to happen. Okay, we'll move on to new business, county logo. Luke, is that something you want to discuss? Are you still there? Just like Luke left. I think Luke had some color blindness issues and I remember investigating it and the color is contrast enough. It's okay. Do you find anything?
Yeah, this agenda item was requested by Luke. I don't see that he's on the meeting at this moment. My understanding of his question about it was whether it could be difficult for people with color blindness to, I guess, reread the new logo and new colors were put into place recently. Thinking about color blindness, I don't see where that could be a concern just because the color is not being used to communicate something specifically. You would normally see that, like on a map, for example, you wouldn't want to use just color to communicate something on a map. You would usually use some kind of texture or something else that is going to be visible for someone, even if they have color blindness. Since this is just font or a logo, it's not necessary to know exactly what color it is to get the information that's involved. The other thing is with text, there are some guidelines for contrast. There are the web content accessibility guidelines, which are not an adopted standard, but they're guidelines. And they suggest that the minimum contrast for AA conformance would be a 4.5:1 contrast ratio. And the new color that the county is using is a higher contrast than that minimum. So there's no concern from my perspective because it does come it's out there. Was there anyone else who had a concern about it?
Oh. Like I said, it's only used for stationary, county buildings, brochures. Stephanie, is that an issue for people with colorblindness?
No. Trying to find out.
Stephanie? The question, no, okay. I didn't see. Okay, thank you. The master plan on aging town hall meetings, do we have dates for them? To urge people to attend?
Linda, this is Sue.
Was to mail you.
Linda, this is Sue. That's the town halls I was talking about.
So you got,
Yeah,
we have that.
March the 5th for St. Louis County. There's one for St. Louis City. Hold on, I'll read them. Aging Best is going to be, that's the town hall. And there's one in Jefferson City. The one in St. Louis. Here we go. The area on aging is going to be Aging Ahead is on March the 5th, 9 to 11, Maryland Heights Community Center on McKelvey Road. There's one in the city at the O'Fallon Park Rec Complex at 4343 West Florissant, and that's again the same date, but from 12:30 to 2:30. And those are the only ones locally. But I will also send you the one that says that you can sign up for a virtual.
Okay, thank you.
I just said it.
Okay, thank you. Finally, is there any public comments to the new business? Okay, new business.
Yes, I saw in something, I don't know, can't remember what, that the county is building a new police department. I don't know if that's different from the other two that we were involved in making sure that they were accessible. But if this is a third one, then we or somebody with disabilities should be involved to make sure that it's accessible. I don't know. Can you look into that?
The precinct 3 is ready to open.
Okay.
Precinct 2 is the other one that they're developing. The facilities department, I have them to make sure that I'm looking over those drawings and alerting them to anything that I notice that might be of concern or any suggestions that I have. Do we have someone who has good understanding of the standards and how to read plans?
We had Stan Brown was a member and is no longer living. Had an architect from the PDA,
Paralyzed
Paralyzed Veterans of America, look over the plans, and I thought we looked at the plans of both stations. Not sure now. So this is one of two, not one of There's not a third one. Is that right? Not a third new precinct station?
There is, one and three already designed, and I think the finishing touches are going on.
Okay, and so
Precinct
this
two is the new one.
is the new one. Okay. Yeah, he was, and I don't know who we can. I don't know. I just know that we need to be looking at it, but I don't know who should be doing it because we don't have that contact anymore unless we contact paralyzed veterans and ask if they would send it, if they would have their architect.
I do have experience doing this when I was working with the city. We would frequently look at buildings, the new soccer stadium, there were changes at the symphony, changes at the garden. Which, doesn't mean that we can't recruit additional people. I think it would be helpful to have them have some background with what the standards are. Experience looking at plans so that it's not overwhelming.
I was just kind of hoping since, we had already looked at the plans for the other two and had, in-person meetings and looked over those plans, that they would apply that information to this third one and that, it should hopefully be okay, but I don't know if the same people are involved or.
Yeah, I can't confirm for you right now whether it's the same architecture. But I can get into that.
Oh, yeah, that would be good because it's the same architecture group then. I think we could just ensure that they are incorporating any of the comments that we made last time or that the PDA architect made last time. If it's a different architectural group, I don't know, maybe we should have Gina O'Leary or somebody.
But Gina will be good person, to contact if you have her take a look at them. She'd be a good one. She has time as well. I don't know who to contact at PPA. Start. Executive. I think it was, she mentioned Stan Brown, we don't have, So, I recall that. The one near my house almost finished, and it's from the outside, it looks exactly.
If it's the same architect, as I recall, there weren't that many suggestions. That's to rely on my memory, but as I recall, the plans were pretty good. I think there were a few suggestions, but not so. I think if it's the same architect, just ask if there are comments, and if it's a different architect, maybe we need to somebody or have somebody else look at it with you, or if you feel confident to do it, that's fine too. I'm not, so.
I am confident, but that doesn't mean others isn't.
Well, why don't you see, if you look at it, you don't see much what's wrong, then maybe that's fine. If you see some big things, then maybe we need some other input.
The kind of things that, for example, that I gave them feedback on with the other plans, I remember, again, electric vehicle charging is something that's brand new. There's not adopted standards in the ADA for those because it's new and the standards are from 2010. But there are guidelines for how to incorporate accessibility into the design. So making sure that they have that information since it is very, recent, kind of currently developing. I think one of the other things was just checking with the vendor, for some of the things in the restroom and the locker rooms and those areas to make sure that all of those measurements truly were fine, what the ADA standards are. And all of that checked out and it was all taken care of. Those are the kind of things that I noticed when I looked at it and made sure to give them feedback. With them on.
Now, did they contact you or did you contact?
A little bit of both. I mean, I'm in constant communication, especially with our facilities department and with our IT. You know, they have
The frequent kind of agreement. When the courthouse was being built and you didn't get a say until after it was fully built. Of course, what she said that we were to be consulted on construction in the county. And so that's why I was wondering if they contacted you. Because there should be involvement. It doesn't have to be us as long as it's somebody, but it needs to be from the beginning. And I thought there was an agreement that that was going to happen. And obviously we didn't hear about it. Now, so.
I think been proactive, like you hear new developments, been proactive, looking over the plan, same thing with the county police. They've been proactive, consultant.
Yeah, the director of facilities, Joe Hunt, has been, you know, extremely, you know, collaborative and asking me to review and sign off on things.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, want to speak?
Josh.
Oh, that's Josh? That was- Oh, Josh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if they still do this, but Starkloff Disability used to do what's called disability consulting. And they would round up a bunch of people, among them visual and hearing impaired, as well as mobility issue folks. And they would tour an entire organization to ascertain whether or not that place was meeting ADA compliance. You know, if it was wheelchair friendly, if it was, if persons with visual, who had low vision or were blind or low hearing or were deaf, could make use of the facilities. Maybe this police department would, or police precinct would benefit from that kind of knowledge. I don't know if they still do this anymore, but it might be somebody to talk to. Also, as far as the PVA is concerned, I don't see the harm in reaching out to them and asking them to recommend somebody. You know, whether it's Gina Hilbury or somebody in their ranks. That way, you know, we're making sure that our, you know, we have all of our ducks in a row, that, you know, the county hasn't slipped. I'm not saying the county is going to slip anything by us, but, you know, that's just so that we're, I guess, covering all bases, if for lack of a better term. Does that make sense?
This is Dana. I just want to mention with the police precinct, it might be a little bit different than some other projects because it's a brand new building, going from nothing. So when they build it, it's going to be, you know, that every component is up to date with the most current building codes. It's not like when you're remodeling something and you sometimes have to make compromises and not everything is possible to be perfectly in line with the code. This is brand new, so everything will be ADA compliant, it'll be 2015 IBC compliant, it'll meet ANSI, you know, and be in line with all of
Yeah,
Like I said,
If
just,
somebody were to look at this, they would be having to look at plans. So it hasn't been built yet. Josh, did you have something else?
I just, I just wanted to, say, that's fine, I'm open to whatever.
Well, I can contact PBA to see if when I apply to one of the vacancies.
Well, I was thinking we should see if they want to, because don't we have a vacancy for an organization?
Okay, is there any other new business? And we'll wrap it up to public comment. Public comment? Okay, call to adjourn this meeting and schedule March 11th. I plan to be here, but I see where I'm at that time, but I'll let you know. So, adjourn the meeting. Thank you for coming.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, you need a moment.
Well, I'm,
Motion to adjourn.
Somebody saying
Making a motion.
motion to adjourn.
To renew their membership in the commission if they're interested in serving.
How do we? You got an email that told you what to do.
She's muted. Can we unmute Stephanie McDowell?
I thought you had an email like. She sent you emails, so.
IT, can you unmute Stephanie McDowell? Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. I was just wondering, Linda, if you would like me to talk to Tiana about getting together regarding accessible voting, getting some people from Paraquat together.
Regarding what?
Accessible voting.
She said, well. You mean the, you mean getting together to review the training?
I know we were discussing that earlier, and Linda had mentioned maybe seeing what how we could work together. So unless I misunderstood that.
Well, are you talking about getting together to look at the training manual that the county has?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I would recommend that, Stephanie, that you approach your policy department and see how you can best handle it.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Or to us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
All right, thank you.
So,
Question, sorry. Are we adjourned?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know we voted on adjournment yet. Okay, sorry. See you next month.
yeah.
Thank you, Josh.